Welcome to OState Daily. Casey Porter here, joined by Chase Whitwiska. Wow, what a day. Signing day, whatever you want to call it. Signing day, whatever. I know that's all different now. Hard to keep up with. And then also, unprecedented, Chase, unprecedented, that both coordinators get fired in the same day. I'm not sure that I've ever experienced this as an Oklahoma State fan. I've experienced head coaches getting fired, but I'm not sure. At OSU, we've always had like a really good offense and a bad defense. Sometimes, like in the early 80s, we've had an okay offense, but a great defense. I can't remember ever both coordinators getting fired, certainly on the same day.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. I am surprised and I'm not. I think that goes to show you how truly bad it was. I think all of the fans are pretty happy about it. I'm more shocked about Dunn than I am Nardo. Nardo, I wasn't going to be shocked whenever we got the news that he was going to be gone.
Man, I told you this last game with Casey Dunn that you can't do it. You can't do what they did at Colorado. You
can't. No, and I think that was just the final nail in the coffin. I think that was it. Getting blown out. Yeah, I mean, getting blown out. I mean, you didn't score a single point on
just
Colorado.
What he did to Milwaukee Smith. I mean, it's like, golly, man, really?
Yeah, and part of me wonders, and this is all speculation. Part of me wonders if he already knew. I wonder if he knew he was going to be gone.
I don't think so.
And then just crapped the bed, didn't care. But I don't know. I have no idea. It's a sad deal to get for anybody to get fired.
I hate it. These days suck. I mean, I hate it, man. It sucks. It sucks. It didn't work out. It doesn't suck. It happened because it's business. These guys are wealthy. It's the right decision. Nobody can argue that. That part of it doesn't suck, but just the human element of just it didn't work out. It just that rejection part of it that just sucks.
Yeah, no, it does. Casey Dunn will be fine. He'll go find a receiver's job somewhere, and I highly doubt he'll be an offensive coordinator anytime soon again, but who knows? I could be wrong. Nardo, I'm not sure what's going to happen to that guy. He hasn't been in Division I football very long, and his time in Division I football is not very good, so there's a chance he may go back to Division II. I'm not sure. I have no idea. Or go be an analyst or something like that somewhere. I'm curious to see who they go after. I think that the hire could be done potentially by the end of the week. I
needs to be fast.
Yeah, I mean with
the portal,
with Gundy knowing that he was going to get rid of these guys, I'm sure that there was already conversations that had begun between him and other coaches. And,
100%.
Things like that.
And with the recruits, recruits knew.
Yeah, absolutely. And
this was done on Saturday or Sunday. It was announced today.
Correct. Yeah. No, and I think that. I wouldn't be surprised if the announcement of who the next offensive and defensive coordinators will be. I wouldn't be surprised if it happened by the end of the week, and I'm excited to see who it is, who they go after. I have a select few people that I think would be good.
Cale Gundy and who else?
Well, Cale Gundy's, do I want that to happen? Yes. Do I think it's going to happen?
Marcus Arroyo's not coming. G.J. Kinney's not coming.
No, I like Tulane's guy.
Yeah.
And I like UNLV's guy. And then of course I really like Zach Robinson, but the chances of him coming to Oklahoma State from the Atlanta Falcons is probably not great. Those three guys, I think would be great fits. Joe Craddock, the guy at Tulane, is, he's done a really, really good job. I think that
Nagel's going. The Tulane guy, I believe, is going to Houston.
Is he?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep.
I wish we'd have gotten on him earlier because we're a better job than that, in my opinion.
I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. I'm terrible at that kind of news. So
yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. And then
wrong. Sorry.
Okay.
Let me back up on that. Let me stop with all that crap. I usually don't do that, and I shouldn't have, so stop with that.
Yeah, and then the UNLV guy, I think his name's Brennan Marion. I could be wrong.
Yeah. Joe Craddock is the Tulane guy's name.
Yes. both of those guys have done really, really good jobs. And you're going from a non-power forward to a power forward if you come to Oklahoma State, and I really do think you have a chance to come in and win and compete at a high level immediately. It depends on what they do in the portal and whatnot. But I think that they have a chance to go get somebody pretty good, in my opinion, offensively. Defensively, there's a couple guys. I was looking at defensive statistics and things like that, and there were a couple that shocked me. 6th in the country in total defense was the guy at Northern Illinois.
They beat Notre Dame.
Yeah, I mean, I think that kind of speaks for itself. And then the guy at there's their co-defensive coordinators at Bowling Green. Mm-hmm. Bowling Green was 29th in the country in total defense. Two of those two guys, I think, are you're very capable of going to get those guys, and numbers don't really mean a whole lot. It's a different level and things like that. Yeah. But those are two guys that are interesting, and the guy from Rice as well. The guy from Rice has done a really, really good job there. Young, if I remember right, he's a younger guy. He looks like a younger guy. They were 9th in passing defense in the country, which is really, really good. Our pass defense was horrendous this year.
You didn't have to put pass in front of that.
I think there were 36 total in the country and in total defense. But
Brian Smith is the Rice guy's name.
Mm-hmm. Any of those guys, in my opinion, would be good hires. So I could be wrong. And, one thing that I'm curious to see, and I highly doubt
he coaches safeties too, which I like because we need a new safeties coach. So I like that fit more than just the stats. I like the fact that he's going to bring in an entirely different teaching method of how to cover, right?
Yeah.
So I like that's Brian Smith from Rice who we're talking about.
Yeah, and the Bowling Green guy is actually the linebackers coach, inside linebackers coach.
That'd be fine.
Yeah, I don't think that would be an issue. There's another guy that. Do I think he comes here? No. I wouldn't be surprised to see Ohio State's head coach get fired with what happened with Michigan. And I think that there's a chance that Jim Knowles is searching for a job come January. I could be wrong. I don't know. Does he want to come back?
Searching is the wrong word. He'll get snatched up. He won't be searching for anything. He'll be pushing people away from him.
That's a good point. Does he want to come back here? I have no idea. I hope he enjoyed his time here, and that would be a guy I'd be very happy to hire. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think the guy you're talking about from Bowling Green is Steve Morrison.
Yeah,
inside linebacker. Well, both of them are inside. One's an inside linebacker, one's an outside linebacker. So. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's who you'd be talking about there from Bowling Green. And, so interesting. It's one of those days to where, like I said, it had to happen. It's something that needed to happen for the program. I think it shows that Mike Gundy is willing to do what it takes to get Oklahoma State back in top. And then I'll tell you another thing it shows me, Chase. It shows me, and I've told people this many times, I knew Chad Weigelberg's dad when he was the basketball coach at NOC. I knew Chad all the way back to the mid-'90s. In that whole entire period, I can tell you he is an OSU fan. He is not just the athletic director of Oklahoma State University. He is a fan just like you and I are, okay? And he is not weak. He comes from a sports background. He comes from lineage that is no nonsense, and I think this shows that Chad Weiberg, above all else, absolutely did his job.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's not an easy job to do.
Hell no, it's not.
It's not an easy job to do, but it was what was best for Oklahoma State. It was what was best for Oklahoma State football. I'm just glad they did it, to be honest with you. I'm glad they ripped the Band-Aid off. Social media has been going insane for the past few days. Like we're waiting for something because you continue to see coaches get fired and no news came from Oklahoma State till today. Mm-hmm. But it was all in due time, and it was definitely time for a change to occur.
Yeah. Okay. So the easy part is just saying, hey, you're fired. That's literally the easiest part of this process, right?
Yeah.
The hard part starts now, right? Okay. So it's like you have an injury or whatever, and you go get your surgery or whatever. Okay. Then you have like the 9-month long rehab process.
Yeah.
Right. So the shitty part's coming now. Okay.
Yeah.
As far as OSU goes, I mean, nobody's going to tell Casey Dunn or Brian Nardo that today wasn't the shitty part for them. Don't get me wrong. But the shitty part for OSU is coming, right?
Yeah.
What happened today was the easy part, right? So now you actually have to go find somebody, that's better than Casey Dunn from an overall whole perspective, not just calling plays. Brian Nardo's a zero element. He doesn't have connections here. He doesn't have inroads. He brought Obi Ezigbo, who was an okay player this year. We had the worst defense in Division I football. So, it's kind of that old saying, well, it could get worse. No, it can't.
It really couldn't.
No, it really can't. I mean, and I really don't mean that to be sarcastic. The thing that's not, usually it's scary when you have turnover like this, especially in the climate of college football, because if you make the wrong hire here, man, a place like Oklahoma State can go away for a long time. Ask Nebraska.
Yeah.
Right. So these are big hires. We have to really put our faith in Mike Gundy. So one of the things that relieves me is knowing it can't be worse on defense. And then here's my biggest concern. Brian Nardo came in to install a brand new defense, got to bring no coaches with him. If you go hire Brian Smith from Rice and he gets to bring in no coaches with him, okay, then he's not going to be successful either. Or at least it's going to be much, much, much more difficult for him to have success. So whoever he wants to bring in, like, he's going to say, well, I need such and such and such and such and such and such. Mike Gundy isn't done. Mike Gundy's going to have to say, okay. And then whenever he says, I need such and such and such and such, if that means no more Dan Hammersmith or no more Tim Duffy, that means no more Dan Hammersmith or no more Tim Duffy. And if he goes and gets a linebacker coach, that means no more defensive line coach. And then Joe Bob Clements goes back down to the defensive line. So he's either going to have to replace or he's going to have to shuffle. But one thing that can't happen is Mike Gundy go get a defensive or an offensive coordinator for that matter, and just not, especially defense though. You can't go get a defensive coordinator and not allow them to bring any of their own coaches in.
No, I agree 100%. I don't know if Nardo even asked to bring in any coaches. I don't know if I'm putting myself in his shoes and I have this opportunity to go from Division II to a high caliber Division I program. I'm not going to ask for anything. I'm just going to say, okay, thank you, I'm coming. Guys that have had Division I experience and guys that have shown to be successful in Division I have been successful in Division I for a reason. It's because of the people that they work with and work around. I don't think you can get away with just bringing in a defensive coordinator.
Hell no, you can't. That's not close to good enough. That's what I'm trying to say.
No.
I've been saying this for a month. Yeah, we can fire our defensive coordinator. That's just the start of it, though. This is just peeling the onion on the outside layer.
Yeah. No, 100%. You can't. You just can't. You literally cannot. You're not going to be able to hire somebody good without allowing them to bring on some of the guys that they've worked with in the past.
Absolutely.
Where there's a trust factor, where they know exactly what they're being coached to do. Because
so, like, you're a pitcher, right, Chase?
Sure. Yeah.
What is your go-to pitch?
A slider.
Right. So you need a person calling pitches or catching, as a catcher that understands that the slider is your go-to guy, your go-to pitch, right? So this guy's going to need let's say that if he's a quarters coverage type guy, this guy needs to go get a safeties coach, or he's going to be it, but just as an example,
right, that
understands how in the Big 12 safeties can function as conflict players, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, that type of he doesn't need to, again, I'm going to say it again. What we can't have is what we got with Brian Nardo, where this guy comes in and he's teaching his scheme to the players and then also to the coaches. We can't do that.
No, you don't have time for it.
No.
You don't have time for it, and you're also not in a climate in college football to where you can afford to install. I know that sounds bad and it sounds scary, but you're not. You're not in a place and a time where you can do that. You have to find success immediately. You can't spend 9 months working on a scheme. You have to get it installed, and it's gonna be tough to install it with players. But then when you have to install it with coaches as well, that just makes it that much harder.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have time to do any of that. We got a question on here that asked if the special meeting on Friday was associated with defensive coordinator and offensive coordinator jobs or something related to Gundy's contract.
Gundy's contract's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could be some of both. And the reason
I don't think they're going to get into the decision making as far as who the defensive coordinator or what. That's going to be totally autonomous from Gundy. This is going to be strictly how do we fix this contract thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how it's. I mean, I don't know if he's going to take a pay cut in order to hire new coordinators. I don't know.
Well, maybe. What he's got to do is he's got to stop the automatic rollover. So here's my plea with Coach Gundy, okay? He's going to be a better coach if he does that, okay? So we all have to donate to Oklahoma State, right? There's a certain amount of suffering that we have to go through to be an Oklahoma State fan because we have to pay for it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, as much as we love OSU, it still hurts whenever we spend, say, $5,000-$6,000 a year watching and supporting Oklahoma State athletics, right? Okay, so we all have to donate to this university. That needs to include the head coach. Now, I don't know how much his donations are back to the university, but I can tell you the best donation he could make if he loves Oklahoma State is to say, the rollover's silly, I'm going to stop it, okay? And that's going to be my donation to Oklahoma State. And I'm not going to need the rollover anyways because y'all ain't firing my ass because we're getting ready to have, like Paul Blair tweeted the other day, one of the best 10-year periods in the history of Oklahoma State football. So y'all take that rollover back. We're all going to have accountability here. We're going to give some leverage back to the school, and we're going to go at it that way. I think that's what the Friday meeting is going to be about. And at that point, yeah, maybe he can take a pay cut or whatever, but at least the school knows what a buyout would look like and how aggressive they can be.
Sure. No, that makes sense. I have no idea what the meeting is going to be about on Friday. Nor do I really care, to be honest with you. What I care about is who we're going to hire as our offensive and defensive coordinators, and then how hard we're going to hit the portal come Monday. Because the portal opens on Monday.
Hard.
Yeah. I mean,
he's going to spend a lot of money, and he's going to hit the portal hard.
As he should.
Chase, we've said it. Coach Gundy is pivoting, man. Coach Gundy is doing what he's supposed to do. Did he do what he's supposed to do this year? Did he get us behind the 8 ball? Did he work too slow on all of this crap? Did he spend all of his NIL money? No. Did it hurt OSU? Yes. Has he done a shitty job in the last 2 years changing with the times? Absolutely. Okay? But as of right now, Coach Gundy is showing you that he is doing what he's supposed to do. And he's willing to do it and moving forward.
Yeah, no, and he hit on that topic, in his press conference or whatever it was, when he said, I goofed up, and I'm going to do better. I mean, that's essentially what he said. And I trust that he is going to do better.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they are going to spend money. I think that they are going to do what they need to do to get some good players to Oklahoma State.
Absolutely. We got plenty of NIL money to be very relevant in college football. Trust me on that. Yeah,
I mean, you just have to spend it. That's
and
it.
Be wise with it. I mean, we don't have excess, right? I mean,
yeah, we don't. I mean, here's what's dumb is I saw we lost the quarterback recruit or whatever to Oklahoma, where supposedly Oklahoma offered him a lot more NIL money. I don't want to spend a lot of NIL money on a 3-star quarterback.
Yeah, that guy was going to OU as soon as the Washington State coach went to OU because he was recruited by that same coach at Washington State. That was the connection there. That's how that world worked.
Right.
That had literally nothing to do with other than, yes, OU offered more. So it was like the perfect case scenario. They had more to offer, and they also had the coach that he liked the best, right?
Yeah, I'm just using that as an example. Like, I don't want to spend $200,000 on a 3-star freshman quarterback that may or may not be worth a darn. If you look at what happened with Jackson Arnold, who's now in the transfer portal from Oklahoma, they spent $1 million on him, and he was average at best. So that's a risky game that you've got to play. I would be more comfortable spending that big of a dollar on somebody that's been there and done that. That's how you have to play the game from now on, in my opinion.
Yeah. I'll tell you another issue, and this is something that Oklahoma State has to figure out. And I can tell you, following the Dodgers, like I do on my Dodgers Daily site, The Dodgers are the best at it. Of course, they have the most amount of money other than the Yankees, so it's a lot easier to make money when you have money. I mean, we all know that. But I'll say this, okay? So what they are so good at and what major league teams have figured out is, old coach type guys like me, typically speaking, when we hear the word analytics, it just makes us want to drop F-bomb after F-bomb. Oh, analytics, right? Oh, yeah, rah, rah, rah. Okay. But really what analytics do, like when you're looking at Sierra for pitchers or expected ERAs, or you're looking at FIP, which is fielding independent pitching, or you're looking at WRC plus numbers for offensive players, or if you're looking at OPS numbers, and then you go, well, yeah, the guy hit 230, and you're going, yeah, and he's a hell of an offensive player because he had a WRC plus of 130. He was 30% above league average because of that. His OPS was 830, and the old-fashioned guy's going, yeah, but he hit 230. And that's like such a small part of what makes an offensive player, right? So what's happened in baseball to these organizations that are successful, they have come up with nothing surefire. I mean, nobody can truly predict the future. But what they pivoted from is they've used these analytics to figure out the best way to determine what a player is going to do in the future versus what they've done in the past, right? So, like, if you go say, Oklahoma State's going to need a GM, just like Major League Baseball, like Andrew Friedman for the Dodgers. Matter of fact, if you go to my Dodgers Daily site, I talked to Billy Gasparino, who is the vice president of all baseball operations for the Dodgers. You remember Billy? He was a great player. Well, you don't, but he was a great player in the late 90s for Oklahoma State. He's in the Oklahoma State Baseball Hall of Fame. I interviewed him on Dodgers Daily. He's one of he's one of the bigwigs there. So anyways, I say all that to say he's a great baseball person, no doubt. But all of these analytical guys that have all of these expected formulas are so valuable now because they are trying to determine what a player is going to do in the future and not what he's already done. I'll give you case scenario number one. Typical football coach, typical old-fashioned goes, well, damn, we won a bunch of games last year. Let's just run it back like we did last year, right? Nope. Actually, if you would have actually graded the offensive line actually wasn't all that great last year. But, hey, we confused a couple people. Ollie Gordon was kind of on the uptick, and he was making people miss, and he made things look a lot better than it was. We were opportunistic on defense. But if you actually would have used advanced analytics to evaluate last year, you would have been able to come to the conclusion that last year's win-loss record was you weren't going to be able to duplicate it because there was a lot of just really great fortune that went into it. So Oklahoma State's I'm saying all this long story to say, the GM or whatever you want to call it, that Oklahoma State is going to get doesn't need to be somebody who evaluates somebody on a football field. It needs to be able to be somebody that can evaluate formulas and statistics and all of that together with the football guys to determine what this player or what these groups of players are capable of doing and will do in the future with our instruction. Did any of that make sense?
Yeah, no, 100%. And one thing that I think it's funny that you brought up a GM because if I'm not mistaken, this is the first team to do it in college football. But Stanford just hired Andrew Luck, to overlook all of football's operations, and I think they call him the general manager or whatever. It doesn't matter. I think there's a lot more of that to come, and I think that you're going to have that. Yeah, I mean, you have to. There needs to be contracts. There needs to be this is turning into it's a professional sport at this point.
Mm-hmm. NFL light.
Yeah, so you're going to have contracts that lock kids in. You're going to have set in stone, like, hey man, you sign this contract, you're staying here for a minimum of 3 years, and you'll get $3 million. Period. No ifs, ands, or buts. You can't break it. If you break it, obviously you'll have to sit out or whatever. That's what you're going to have to do because it's going to continue to get out of control if they allow things to keep going how they're going right now.
Mm-hmm. Which I love it because, Oklahoma State signed its assistant coaches to 2-year contracts, right? Mike Gundy has a rollover 5-year contract. They got to negotiate that, right? So why can't a player negotiate their scholarship at Oklahoma State? I see no issues with that. The adults have been doing this for hundreds of years in this profession.
Right.
It's not a bad thing that the kids are doing, the players are doing this. It just needs regulated to where we can at least know what the rules are and have at least a set of regulations that at least make sense for college, right?
Yeah, the bad part right now is there are no rules.
No.
I mean, it's a free-for-all. And that's why you have guys going in and out of the portals and all this stuff. There's no rules. There's nothing that's preventing them from doing it. And that's why I will not get mad at one player that enters the portal. Use it to your advantage. Go see where you can be the most successful. Go see where you can make the most money. I mean, it is what it is, and I will never blame the kid for that. Mm-hmm. I mean, because if you put yourself in your shoes, you can say and do whatever you want. But if you put yourself in their shoes at 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, I guarantee you the first thing that you're going to say is, where can I make the most money at? Because right now I'm a broke college kid. I can avoid that. I can also help my family or whatever. If your family's struggling or whatever, I will never blame a kid for going in the portal, but there's got to be some sort of regulation on it because right now it is out of control.
Well, I mean, NFL has a salary cap. Major League Baseball has a luxury tax.
Yeah.
So like in Major League Baseball, if you go over a certain threshold, which I believe is like 130 million or something on your payroll per year, then you hit an infraction. If you hit that infraction, like for 2 years in a row, there's a second penalty. If you hit it for 3 years in a row, there's a third penalty, and it gets to be where like the Dodgers break it every year, and like they're making 50 cents on the dollar and they don't care because they're swimming in money with Shohei Ohtani, and these blue bloods aren't going to care, but the Oklahoma States will. So I think the transfer portal and the NIL, I'm not as big on the NIL because I'm different, but I can say this. I have never gone to an Oklahoma State game because of an individual player. I go to Oklahoma State games because I'm watching Oklahoma State play football or basketball or baseball. Now, is it more enjoyable whenever we win because we have good players? Yes, but I'm not going I was going to the games not to see Barry Sanders. I was going to the games to watch Oklahoma State.
Right.
So if Barry Sanders thinks that he needs part of my ticket sale because he's the best player on the team, I disagree with that. But that's here nor there. It's here to stay. It's not going away. And so it's an issue that Coach Gundy's going to have to figure out the formula for Oklahoma State.
Yeah, and that's where college and the NFL are different. But 9 times out of 10, a lot of people prefer NFL teams because of certain players. For me, I just like the Dallas Cowboys. I like certain players too. I said weeks ago, wherever Ollie Gordon goes in terms of the NFL, I'll probably buy a jersey. Now, and if I get to go see him play Dallas, then sure, I'm going to go watch if he goes to Detroit. I'll go to watch Detroit and Dallas play just so I can see Ollie Gordon and I can see the Dallas Cowboys. But, I mean, that's neither here nor there. But, yeah, I think with the transfer portal and with guys continuing to bounce around, you're going to see there's going to be fans of certain – it's going to turn into fans of certain players. And fans are not going to be necessarily loyal to a school, but loyal to the player.
Good point.
Which is where I think – I mean – and again, there's no restrictions. If Ollie Gordon left 2 years ago, I bet you he carried a lot of fan base wherever he went with him.
See,
and
I
that's
think you
because
have
of
it
who
exactly
he is.
opposite, though. I think you're making a great point, but you have it exactly opposite.
What do you mean?
Well, because like in free agency in baseball, okay, whenever it came in the 70s, I think Curt Flood was the first one to be a free agent in Major League Baseball. So fans now, because players move so much, what's actually happened, in my opinion, is that fans aren't fans of individual players like they used to be with the Mickey Mantles and the Don Drysdales and the Sandy Koufaxes. Instead, they've been forced, because there's so much player turnover, to almost get numb to who's actually on their roster. And now you're just a fan of the brand, and it's whoever's on the team. You just kind of deal with whoever it is because you know they might not be there the next year. So I think this free agency actually makes Oklahoma State fans have to become more Oklahoma State fans and less of an Ollie Gordon fan, because you can't trust he'll be there.
Yeah, I mean, and that's not a player's fault. That's not it. I mean, it's not anybody's fault. But I think it could go either way. I really do, because I think there's a lot of people that are going to follow
There's no OSU fan that's going to become an Ohio State fan if Ollie Gordon goes there.
No,
None.
but they'll still be an Ollie Gordon fan. What I'm saying is that they may go out of their way to watch an Ohio State football game because Ollie Gordon plays for Ohio State. That's just the example that I was using. Not necessarily that they would follow him to that certain team, but they are going to follow the player that they like, if that makes sense.
Follow him in what way, though?
In terms of,
they're going to buy an Ohio State jersey and make Ohio State money off of it?
Yeah. I mean, I don't.
An Oklahoma State fan will?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
It's an interesting conference. There's no right answer.
No, I mean, for example, I'm not a Lions fan, but I'm a Malcolm Rodriguez fan. I would buy a Malcolm Rodriguez jersey. Do I want to give money to the Lions because I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan? No, but I really like Malcolm Rodriguez, so I'm going to buy his jersey. I mean, it's that. I think that's how you. That's what I mean. No, not yet. I need to. I need to. By the way,
even though you're a Dallas fan.
Yeah, I mean, I still like him, and I love Dan Campbell, their head coach. But
he is awesome.
He's cool. It's sad what happened to Malcolm Rodriguez, though.
He goes for on fourth down and they don't get it, he totally eats it, man.
Yeah, that's on me.
Totally on me, guys.
Call. I like him.
That's awesome. Hey, we have a great comment here, Chase. Key C says a goodwill offering would be for Gundy to take a pay cut that would be enough to pay his coordinator's buyouts. That is a great comment there. That'd be about $1.5 million, somewhere around there. So that'd be Mike Gundy taking about $1.5 million pay cut to buy out his coordinators. Here's the problem too. So not only you got to buy out your coordinators, which is going to be $1.5 million, then you got to go buy the next coordinator, right? Yeah. So it's an expensive deal. So I think you could take it even further than that. I think Mike Gundy's wealthy enough to say, hey, I'm going to buy out the coordinators that I just had to fire because it's my freaking fault that we're having to fire them because I was the one who hired them, right? And so I'm going to be the one that eats that. I think that would be fair. And then I'm going to pay a certain percentage to go get the guy that I want. I think that would be very fair on his part. Now, will he do it? You wouldn't think so, but that would be a really fair thing, I think.
I mean, I don't really know. I don't know if he would do it or not because I truly do think he wants the most success for Oklahoma State, not only because that's the school he played for, but it's the school he's coached at for 20-something years. I mean, I don't think it's impossible, to be honest with you. I think he still cares. He cares about the program. He cares about Oklahoma State. There's a sense of pride there, and I'm not faulting him for this whatsoever because I care about mine too. But he cares about his reputation. He does not want to be consistently starting to lose games. He wants to remain a winner. He wants to remain thought of as one of the best college football coaches. And to do that, sometimes you have to do things that you don't necessarily want to do. Yeah. Tom Brady is a great example of it. Always taking less money to get better players. Patrick Mahomes does the same thing, and then we got freaking Dak Prescott taking $60 million to where now we're out of money. So it depends on, it is what it is. I keep bringing up the Cowboys, but
I'll tell you what, and this is very, very premature and I could easily be talked out of this, but just at first glance, I think my top two candidates are Brendan Marion of UNLV for the offensive side.
Sure.
And then I think Brian Smith, gosh, man, he's impressive.
Yeah.
Those two dudes are impressive, man. I'm telling you, if Oklahoma State announced that the two coordinators are Brendan Marion and Brian Smith, I would throw a freaking OState Daily party, man. Telling you, man, those would be two good hires.
Well, and those are guys that you need on your staff because they're young.
They're guys I think you can get.
They're also young.
Yes,
and
right.
they've shown success. And what you have to have now, especially with the younger generation, is you have to have younger, energetic coaches.
Yeah.
And I think you get that with either of those two guys that you get. If you get both of them, then it's great, because those are guys that are also going to connect with your players better. And then they've hey, I've had a lot of success at this level,
100%. I'll give you a perfect example of the NIL transfer portal. So in the minor leagues, they're always experimenting with new rules, right? Mm-hmm. Well, one of the new rules they put in 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, I don't know how long ago it was. Don't quote me on the amount of years. They put in a pitch clock. Okay.
Yeah.
So it started at 22 seconds and then it went down to 18 or whatever. So all of the generation of players that are getting up with the Dodgers to the major leagues right now, that are pitchers like Landon Knack, Bobby Miller, Ben Kasparius, Nick Frasso, all these guys that have been in the system for 3 or 4 years. They've known nothing of their professional career other than a pitch clock, right? So they're on a major league mound, and they're just, give me the ball, throw it, give me the ball. They're having zero issues whatsoever now that the major leagues instituted that same pitch clock violation. Well, you take a guy like Clayton Kershaw, which would be like the Mike Gundy, the guy who's never pitched to a pitch clock. He's gone this entire career, Coach Gundy, 2 decades without the pitch clock, and they're like, what the hell is this? This is, so well, I say that to say you get these younger guys that really don't know a whole lot different of an environment past the NIL and transfer portal, and to them, it's just like second nature. It's not even an issue to them. It's just all they know, right?
Yeah, and that's going to help you with recruiting. That's going to help you with how to manage who you give NIL money to, because those coaches should be a part of that conversation, and I think that they are. I mean, I have no idea what goes on in there, but offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators should say, hey, man, this is a guy that we really need to spend a big buck on, and why, you fire a head coach, Mike Gundy fires back, well, why do you think so? And then you say, well, with my experience with this guy or at this school, this is what we had to do to get this kind of player.
Yeah.
Now we're at a better school and a better situation where we have more money and we have probably a better track record than most of the other schools these people are coming from. Spend money to make money. Spend money to make money.
Yeah, so we've gone over a couple of our candidates. I'm getting ready to get off and talk to Sean Love, if you don't remember him. He caught a big pass in that 1997 game out of John Marshall. Him and Willie Grissom were the 2 big receivers there towards the late 90s. Evan Howe. I think Ethan was the receiver. Evan, I think, was the defensive player. I could have that backwards. But then also you had Garrett Steggs and Alonzo Mays at the tight end spots. So I'm getting ready to interview Sean Love, and I felt terrible because I released my interview with Matt Clark today, like 8 minutes before the announcements of the offensive and defensive coordinators. And Matt Clark's a basketball player, one of the greatest basketball players ever at Oklahoma State. Please go watch that because I'm very proud of it. It was just such an honor to get to talk to him. And it's like got no views at all because it was like the worst timing of all time. It was like a basketball player that played at OSU 40 years ago just released an interview with him 8 minutes before we fired both of our defensive and offensive coordinators. It was terrible.
It's hard to compete. That's really
sorry,
hard to
Matt. Sorry, bro. You got any final thoughts before we get out of here, man? This has been fun.
No, man, I think I'm glad that they did it. I think that they're going to make a decision soon, and they're going to have to make a decision soon because, like I said, the portal opens on Monday, and it's time to get down to business. So We'll see what happens.
We're going to go about 5 more minutes. So if you have any questions right now, or if you have any comments that you want to make that you want read on the air, that you can create new discussion topics, hey, right now is your time to put that in the chat. I like this one. Bus rider, Coach Prime to Stillwater. You pay him what Gundy makes, and this team will be loaded. Yeah, Coach Prime could do a lot of good work in Stillwater. Don't think that's going to happen, but
no.
I'll say this one last time, and I still have total trust in Coach Gundy. I think he is showing that. I think here's what I'm banking on, Chase. Coach Gundy loves challenges, okay? I think he sees this as a new challenge, like, people don't think I can do this. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to prove all these suckers wrong.
Yeah, I mean, call me crazy, and this is going to be a hot take, but they're going to win a Big 12 championship within the next 3 years.
Why is that a hot take? That's sad if you think that's a hot take.
I think it's a hot take because you never know what's going to happen with college football in general. I mean, it's a hot take to say that anybody's going to win anything, in my opinion, anytime soon because you just don't know what's going to happen.
I love giving you hell with whiskey.
Yeah, I mean, that's my opinion.
I love it, man.
I think it's a hot take.
Two shits.
No, I don't. I don't care. An even hotter take would say, hey, they're going to win it next year. And that
would be a hot take.
I would be shocked if that happened. I'm not willing to go that far, but I'll say within the next 3 years, I think it's going to happen.
And that's a hot take?
I think so.
So you think we're screwed then?
Not necessarily screwed, but I think that it's going to be hard to compete with Colorado as long as Deion's there. I think it's going to be hard to compete with Arizona State, who's shown a lot of success with having a young coach that has had a lot of success in doing what he's doing. Those are two schools that are scary. BYU is always going to be good. Utah is always going to be good. I think Arizona is going to be good within the next couple of years. There's a lot of teams in the Big 12 that are scary. Kansas State is another one. But the two that concern me the most are Arizona State and Colorado. That's why I think it's a hot take, because I think that like I said, as long as Dion is at Colorado, Colorado is going to be good. Yeah. And they're just going to keep continuing to get better. Yeah. So this is if I'm taking my Oklahoma State hat off here, Colorado should be the best team in the Big 12 for the next however long Dion is there, in my opinion. And I think as long as that Arizona State coach is at Arizona State, they're going to be successful because he's really good.
Yeah. Garrett Gooden saying Zach Robinson is OC with the guarantee he'll take over head coach after Gundy retires. Zach Robinson is not coming back. He is on pace to be an NFL head coach. And let me ask you this. Would if you were him, would you want to come fight the Big 12 and trying to get kids to come to OSU with a limited budget and all the mess that what college football is now? Or would you rather go deal with 27-year-old professionals?
Depends on what you like to do. I can't.
Well, I can tell you which path he's taken to this point. So he's pretty much shown you that.
Yeah. I mean, in his situation with what he's shown, he's pretty comfortably being where he's at. And I don't blame him. I mean, you're at the highest possible level of all of football, and you have a chance to be one of the top 32 coaches in the entire world, in my opinion, because that's a really hard job to do, to be a coach at the NFL level. So, I mean, in my opinion, if I was him, I would stay in the NFL. That's just me.
We have a good comment here from Okie Light. If college is headed for the NFL type system, why not grab an older coach with NFL experience? Well, because in the NFL, you have contracts. So, like, if a guy signs like a 4-year contract, then he can't get out of that contract until it's up. In college football right now, there are no contracts. So if you have coaches that don't relate with the kids at this point, they're going to up and leave the very next year. Now, once I think you have contracts in place, like if Mike Gundy, so this goes to the old Mike Gundy versus what's going to have to be the new Mike Gundy in terms of how he has relationships with his players, right? So the old Mike Gundy can kind of do whatever the hell he wants, and the kid is going to be at OSU or this or that because the transfer rules are very restrictive. But those aren't there right now. So if you go get a bunch of, say, 55, 60-year-old NFL types that they're just in it for the business aspect of it, and that's just kind of how they do things, then you're going to have kids transferring every single year because there's no rules on it.
Here's the other thing that you have to think of, too. If you hire an older coach, in the NFL, this is where the NFL and college are always going to be different. College, you have to recruit. Kids get to choose where they go. NFL, you don't get you don't necessarily
free agency. That's what I'm saying with contracts.
Yeah, you don't necessarily get a choice. It's going to be hard to recruit kids when you're 50 and 60 years old, and that's your entire staff. I mean, kids want to be around younger guys.
That model has worked for Deion Sanders because he relates with the kids. That's all they needed.
It's Deion. He's one of the best athletes to ever play in any sport. Who doesn't want to be around that guy? But Correct. You can't. He is on so much of a different level than anybody and everybody else. Unless Bo Jackson decides to come to Stillwater, Oklahoma, and do the exact same thing.
Still doesn't have the charisma.
No, you're right. I mean, he doesn't have the sunglasses and all that stuff.
Did you see him chewing his son's ass out the other day? And it was like hilarious. It was like,
I loved it.
You wouldn't even be mad if you were Shadur's. Like, he just did it so perfect, you know?
Yeah. Well, if you're Shadur, you probably are mad because you're like, you don't know him outside of, that's my dad. Yeah, and right. Screw that guy. Sure. But no, it's
good point.
Because I've been on the receiving end of a butt chewing from my father. Oh, yeah. I don't care if it was Dion or I don't care. I'm like, screw you, Dad, shut up. I don't want to hear it. But no, I mean, you're not gonna find anybody like a Deion Sanders, and that NFL model is just not going to work.
Not unless you have Deion Sanders. You have to have somebody like a Deion Sanders in a very prominent part of your position that counterbalances that. I don't think Mike Gundy's that guy. I think he's been that guy in the past, but I don't think he's that guy now. So
I don't think Chase, anybody's that guy.
Yeah. Hey Chase, I got to get off and get with Sean Love here and talk. So hey, we've had a wonderful crowd. This is just, it's very flattering and humbling that so many people come over and want to talk on these live shows. We had a wonderful show Sunday night too. So thank you guys so much for helping OState Daily build. Way more of this to come. We enjoy talking about our passion of Oklahoma State sports, and we enjoy talking with other Oklahoma State fans like this too. This is absolutely fantastic. So final thoughts, Chase.
We'll see what happens within this next couple weeks. I think it's going to tell you a lot about how next season is going to go, to be honest.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. Hey, I want to thank everybody for joining OState Daily. Again, go and watch that Matt Clark interview. Please, please, please. I know I released it like at the worst time I could, but it's really great. He talks about the 83 team with Leroy Combs, Lorenzo Andrews, Paul Hansen, that whole generation. He talks about the half-court shot from Eddie Half-Court Hannon, all of that. Also, tomorrow, I talked with Nathan Gilslider, Believe in Oklahoma State, and I'm going to release our conversation with him tomorrow. And then Friday, I'm releasing my interview with Joey Graham. I was going to release it tonight in front of the basketball game. Nope, not with all this news. So going to wait till Friday to release that video. So check out all that. Be looking for all that. Just know, turn on your notifications, and you'll get notified for all of it. So thank you to everybody out there. And this has been a